By the close of this week, 6 children would have been killed through road traffic accidents in Ghana.
But you didn't do hospital because I know I am.
A class of 50 in let's say school B, class 150 up to class 6. Every year you have class 1 to 6 pupils dying. So a whole school stream is wiped off every year.
I went to school,
This could be your child or my child. Sadly, we all don't know whose child will be killed today through a road traffic accident.
If already 300 children die on our roads every year, then you can imagine 300, even if you say it's just numbers, 300 children, my God.
Some of these children have even been killed and buried already by the police because they were never identified.
Sometimes we don't get the relatives coming, so then we have to mass bury them.
For some of them who survive these fatal crashes, they end up with permanent disabilities.
Madam, the cousin got plenty of fees and studies. Make one car.
Peter lost both legs from this crash.
We are taking things for granted. These are people with a lot of hope, people who would have untapped potential, and because of this we just rob ourselves of that.
The way and manner we train them, the way and manner we handle them will determine how the future will be like.
My name is Seth Kwame Boatin. Today, I focus on children who are getting their lives either snuffed out while others live the rest of their lives maimed through road traffic accidents. Ghana's population is very young. Statistics suggest about 57% of Ghana's population is under age 25. They must be fit and well and be alive to be able to take care of the country tomorrow, because they remain our future leaders. According to the Executive Director of Child Rights International, Bright Apia, it is the reason children must be protected.
The way and manner we train them, the way and manner we handle them will determine how the future will be like. So definitely, if children have potential, then we can also say that they are the future of the country for that matter. We need to do things in a manner that would always protect them.
The statistics are very scary, but the numbers mean very little without carefully connecting names, families, and the painful stories of the losses behind the numbers. This is very worrying that every year here in Ghana, we lose over 200 lives, that is children and young adults, to road traffic accident. And this represents 13% of the entire mortalities we record from road traffic crashes in Ghana. Kofi, help me with the analysis.
If you look at this chart, you realize that the Ghana Statistical Service has estimated our population below 18 years at 14.2 million. Now, from 2015 to 2021, we've lost over 1,300 of our population below 18 years to road traffic crashes. For the injuries, you wouldn't want to talk about it because it's very worrying. Let's look at 2019. Now, if you look at the 2019 analysis, you will realize that children accounted for over 13.8% of the total number of deaths recorded as a result of road traffic accidents. If you do further analysis, you will realize that teenagers recorded over 33% of this total number of deaths, whilst children below the age of 12, look at this, 66.67%. This is an alarming situation that needs an urgent measure. This chart represents our population below 18 years and the total number of children and young adults we lose every year as a result of road traffic crashes. In 2015, which is our base year, we lost 285 of our children and young adults in road traffic crashes. Fast forward to the first half of 2021, that is in May, the Ghana Statistical Service estimated our population at 14.2 million, and just between January and May, we've lost 168 of our children and young adults in road traffic accidents.
We think because our fertility rates might be high, we may make up, but then what if these would have made serious impact to our society, made serious impact to our development agenda? And we should start thinking about them as not just numbers, but people.
Ghana loses about 310 children to road traffic accidents every year. This is from a study conducted by the Building and Road Research Institute, where Isaac Youngson works.
What that translates into is that if you have a class of 50 in let's say school B, class 150 up to class 6, every year you have class 1 to 6 pupils dying. So a whole school stream is wiped off every year. That is how serious the situation looks.
The National Road Safety Authority boss, Mayor Briyabo, admits they really have a serious issue at hand.
A lot has to be done, I must say. We are doing it, but we have not gotten there at all. Because if averagely 300 children die on our roads every year, then you can imagine 300, even if you say it's just numbers, 300 children. My God, it is something that we need to really address to ensure that these future leaders that we have, we say we'll take the children as our future leaders, then we cannot lose them every year. It means that within 5 years, then averagely about 1,500 of them have died. And it is now that it's free education, so probably you say that there are more people in the school. But about 2 years ago, you go to a secondary school, and the total number of people will just be about 1,000 or 1,500. It means that we have killed a whole school, a secondary school students, within that number of years.
Today, I am out on the Graphic Road here in Accra to meet a young woman who has been a victim of road traffic accident. She is called Naomi Addo. She lives around the Graphic Railway slum, 600 meters from the Graphic Road Highway. Tears build up in her eyes, and even before I engage her, she breaks down.
Because many that's why I'm in Bano. See that you baby papa be and the Ashemi, and to miss me, you home. I'm assuming in the course. See that she be obey at the papa be mammy, so in a bachelor, Uncle C. Aga. On a many year maybe be a me Babette or friend auntie Naomi, or friend mad. They be auntie Naomi and the one on the flame. Meaning a DG, meaning be a balance and a D, Mammy and Cassa.
On that day, Naomi saw her 8-year-old class 2 daughter off to school, hoping they would reunite later in the day. This, however, became a mere wish.
Baniku school, until all bano, and a traffic light in Ejuma. And you know where who said into all Tremuno, not cabin so every overhead nisu. Sunny, into a born and a rush in the hospital, and in the hospital, you drew on. I say.
On that day, Naomi was so sick that she wasn't able to rush to the Kolebu Teaching Hospital to see her daughter.
On that catcher, we collapse here. It is Benitiana, behind the half, and I'm beside, and I must you see. so many day. Ministry ame.
When the first car hit her, a second one ran over her at the Graphic Road traffic light intersection. According to hospital records from the Kolobo Teaching Hospital, her pupils had dilated and was bleeding from the nose and mouth by the time they reached the hospital. She also had a deep cut on her forehead. Her dream of becoming a journalist ended right there.
When we start mentioning children in this society, children from this level of society and what their loss means to their families, then we probably will start sitting up. For example, if it's an only child, for example, if it is a child born out of so many years of trying to have a child, or a child.
It's been 4 years since this tragedy hit this community, and still the traffic light does not work, though it is a very busy stretch. Hundreds of school children cross daily.
Nadia Hamia Pesimi Kanisi, and Yami Banipe, Kayu 4. And Kayo formed in Yama Trim, a bomb ban only 3 months times about this small girl, the same school now. A boy, small girl, been so not a downfall. Ni mammy were down. Ni 3 months na can so back and so were and I can so ooh, speed and pay ration equipment, need any day. Or tall from a while, young. Says they didn't do hospital grandpa. You would and me person me and Kaminya minister be and I see MP be and I see ni party through bimpo and ka on twem na ka ni mbo na yen hwese sanko wu o ha on be ye traffic light no e dia ma na see omonye ma ye.
If you look at the period from when we started gathering our statistics from the early 90s, 1991 thereabouts, all the way to the 2000s, to probably 2019, where we have the validated statistics. Pedestrians have been one of the most vulnerable, and averagely about 40% of those who have died on our roads have been attributed to they being knocked down by vehicles, that is pedestrians being knocked down by vehicles. And children have their fair share in that. Because when you talk about the 40%, we are talking about both adults and then children.
Most of the time, the long-term effects are not just the physical loss, there's emotional, mental interplay.
In 2020, for example, 6 children died when a minibus crashed at Ofensu in the Ashanti region. These children were returning home after playing a community gala in another town when the car veered off the road and crashed. Some of the children who survived were seriously injured.
At the end of the day, we should see reduction, if not elimination, reduction in the numbers we are recording, because the numbers we are recording are scary. They are scary. Just the recent one that was released, and just yesterday, I think about 5 more people lost their lives. It's not acceptable. And if you listen to the situation that resulted in yesterday's accident, for instance, for me, it's avoidable.
Which is on a bit of a sad note, because it has to do with the kids who died in the Ofensu accident that happened a few weeks ago. Now, the latest update coming in today is that the children who passed away would be buried today.
Frederica and these 6 children who perished at Ofensu were identified and buried by their families. There are, however, some children who have been knocked down and killed, and no relative, no friends know about, and so will be buried without their knowledge. At the police hospital mortuary here in Accra, some of these bodies are being kept, with officials hoping that sooner than later they would be identified and collected for burial. Every year, on the average, this hospital receives 1,500 known bodies and around 750 unknown bodies, which gives a total of 2,250 bodies. Out of this, 40%, which is about 900 of them, died through road traffic accident. Sadly, between 30 to 40% of the 900 are children. So statistically, between 270 and 360 of the road traffic accident-related bodies they receive here are children. Chief Superintendent Dr. Osei Usuefriye, head of the hospital's pathology, is worried.
4 out of 10 bodies we receive here are usually unknown or unidentified persons. And usually these unknown and unidentified persons are people who have been picked up by the side of the road, probably due to road traffic accidents. They've traveled from one city or another into Accra, and on the side, on the shoulders of the road, they've been knocked down by a car, and they've been picked up by police and have brought them in here. Some of these ones are elderly people who have strayed out of their homes. They may have some dementia or something. They are not aware of themselves. They strayed out of their homes, and then they've been knocked down by cars. And out of that, we have about a third of them who are children.
From January 2020 to 2nd July 2021, data from this hospital suggests 30 children were brought in dead through road traffic accident.
Generally, as a society, we are not being careful enough. Careful enough meaning that we do not anticipate what can happen ahead. And so children have closed from school maybe around 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. and they are walking alone. They're supposed to be crossing the road alone. They are on the right side of the road, and somebody is driving towards them or is driving behind them, and they do not notice and they are knocked down. Now, these children are attempting to cross the road. The cars have stopped for them, and they've been knocked down by motorbikes because the motorbikes do not want to stop. And so these are some of the things that happen in the middle of, in our society. Sometimes we have situations where people are reversing. They are not they are not cautious enough, and they've reversed into, toddlers. Sometimes it can be extremely painful.
This is not peculiar to only the police hospital. At the Kolebu Teaching Hospital between May 2020 and March 2021, 11 children were brought in. At the Konfonochi Teaching Hospital mortuary, 147 children were received between January 2020 and July 2021 alone.
I look at what happens on the road and what are the causes of these crashes. A lot of it has to do with children crossing. About 80% are children crossing the road. It's probably not they be at the side, but it is when they are crossing. So it means that we need to tackle how children cross the road. One is to rigorously intense our education and let children know how vulnerable they are in the road space. And therefore, whether we are parents or we are siblings of children, we should ensure that an elderly person accompanies our children to school. A lot of these things happen when they close or from school.
WHO rightly puts it that we are, rather as the middle income to developing countries, have very lax rules about road traffic accidents, and we are missing out on a lot if we don't do something about it.
You don't even see the road users paying or giving children priorities and all that. And that, if people are behaving that way, then it shows that within the policy arrangement of drivers or whatever capacity that we give to them or the awareness that we create with them, we've not factored in the issue of giving children priority. And that, for me, shows that we are not protecting children who cross the road.
Sometimes some of the parents are not attentive enough. They've left their kids and they are walking around unsupervised. And so then if they are knocked down by a motorbike, and it's usually a motorbike or a car, then it becomes problematic to trace. Now, what then happens is that we leave them here for a while. We make announcements on media. Sometimes it goes on social media as well, for people to come in and identify people who are missing, and so that they can, we can give them the remains of their relatives. Sometimes we don't get the relatives come, and so then we have to mass bury them.
We keep saying that the fears we see have names behind them, and therefore it is not pleasant for us as regulators, for us as people involved in driver licensing and vehicle inspection. However, data shows, or study has also shown, that the behavior aspect of the road user, especially the drivers, attention must be paid to that area.
The police is needed now more than ever. This premature death of our children cannot continue. Director General of the Police Motor Transport and Traffic Directorate, COP Frederick Edu-Enim, says they are changing their strategies now.
We have to be very innovative. We have to bring changes in a bid to reduce road carnages on the road, accidents, and so because for decades we have been using the same methods, as I said, road safety campaigns, education, and other things, but we are not. It's not yielding the needed results. I have planned that we go to the road. We don't have to sit in our offices and talk. We have to go to the ground and do what is right.
Now, with the injuries, in 2015, we recorded 1,098. This is just children and young adults. Now, if this is allowed to continue, by the end of 2030, that is from 2015, we would have had over 7,000 of our children and young adults being injured just as a result of road traffic crashes. If you compare 2020 to 2021, just within the first half of 2021, the total number of injuries recorded is 8,188. Now, if you compare this to the 2020 figure, which is 6,855, you realize that there has been a significant increase, and a significant amount of this are children and young adults. As I earlier on indicated, you don't need a soothsayer to tell you that this is an alarming situation. If something needs to be done, now is the time.
I'm beginning to see lives beyond numbers, lives beyond what has happened to the person. I mean, beyond just certifying death. Personally, when I'm certifying a patient coming in, even going through care and passing away, it takes a toll. I vet what has happened and what could have been done.
Still at the police hospital, every week they receive about 50 accident victims, and some of them are children and adolescents.
They come in crossing a road, knocked down by a motorbike, and especially in the densely populated areas, not to mention any area, densely populated areas. And even sometimes within, because of indiscipline on our roads, we don't look on for pedestrians. So these children, they are miniature. So even when you sit in the car, it's difficult to see them. They are in obscure places. And then they do cross the roads running. They cross the roads running, not paying attention to the oncoming vehicle from different sides.
Moses Adey is one of them. On Friday, 19th March 2021, 13-year-old Moses stepped out to buy food at Trader Junction and has since not returned home. Moses has been on admission at the trauma and orthopedics ward of the Confnochi Teaching Hospital for almost 6 months.
I'm name Nyaba Kukotedian. When you are playing Charles, Many quoted me intimate me third and we and me Jimmy son, me damn one a can bomb. Can bomb many tinam the home at tram 9. And it's me say is he then and bedaha. And I see then no tram 9. No busan. No busan said into no tram 9. No sican a bomb in a chilly tiny fast in a yam dumping. To know me own she need to know try.
I am in Kumasi for further information, and I get the opportunity to meet the police officers who were first dispatched to the accident scene.
This is the exact spot police officers found Moses on the day he was knocked by that taxi. He came to buy food from this woman, Gary and Beans. He had finished and he was about boarding a tricycle that brought him when the taxi knocked him. And I understand when the police came, they found pool of blood right here. And I can see from where I am some parts of, I think, either the motorcycle or the taxi that knocked him.
Police in Trader is trying hard to understand how that taxi could veer off its lane without any obstruction and hit Moses. ASP Dorcas Mensah, the Trader District MTTD boss, however, says their investigations have slowed down.
The driver was billed and he was asked to be reporting himself. The investigator went with the surety to know where he's residing, and he went back to the hospital, took statement from the victim. Since he is minor, another statement too was taken from the mother. Since he is alive, he can tell us exactly what happened at the scene. So we are waiting. Either we can go to I don't know whether the doctors will allow it, but so far as he's now going for another surgery, I don't think it will be appropriate for us to move him from the hospital and send him to the scene. So we are waiting.
Moses has so far undergone 8 surgeries and has 2 more to do. But this pain is not what bothers him. The pain from the services he rendered his local church and school, which he may not be able to render again, is his major headache. He played drums at church and in his school. He is an athlete and a footballer. He wishes to be a pilot in future.
Nam to me go school, nam to me go sorry. Nam to me go bia, nam to me the bobine. Nam to me the chance match, 6 match, nam to me the match. Nam nene bon. On the time of pen or class, or she say, me yali me tram am yal be down there. I see pleasures in the society. Who knew I sent coming and comable. I said, or see pleasures in the society.
The number of children that we have interviewed, they have ambitions. So when some of these things happens to them, it is as if their world has come to an end. So you will need clinical psychologists to engage their minds, to bring them back to life, so that they will know that irrespective of the condition that they find themselves in, they can still survive and all that. But we don't provide some of these things. So children live on their own, plan how they want to survive on their own, and then decide how they want to survive. So if you don't conscientize them, that is where those who are disabled as a result of that would begin to find themselves on the street.
Moses is a Presbyterian, and at his local church at Sabina Krofrom, they really miss him and cannot wait to have him back because of his devotion to the church. They pray daily for speedy recovery for him anytime they meet. The catechist Helena Asatrum confirms how instrumental he has been.
I'm say now wo twene na na ni mboda da na wo se da bi nti brother na na gina ne nche na o ka kire nse o ka wo mo a me kire nti oni nipa twene no wa hunu bo nti twene no kro bobo ye na ma me hunu ni ye pa wo asori mu kwasem ni ye te ye no ya sakwala ketu a opeso de ne hu manyame na obobo twene na orofe sade mo bohu se sa atoyire nchem kese se ya to no mfata ya so ne ya nti ye ho ntentem ma ye bo asafo na ma ne ese animu yi ye bo afode na ye de koma no nti awrade adom ye keka ye nse nya 1001 ye swakora o na ye de she envelope mu koma ne ma me se onye
and the 6 March nam aba and the 6 March they do am bomb homodin me ade am ye bia am bomb homodin se meye school le nam ya na milidi so ana o mani age na me se na minimum achi.
We are here to talk to the students here.
I follow up to Moses' school at Pechi No. 1 DA Junior High School to speak with his teachers. Moses had the accident a few weeks after he was promoted to GHS 1. His classmates are in GHS 2 now. In his class, GHS 2B, Moses' desk remains unoccupied.
So do you all know Moses?
Yes, sir.
So you know what has happened to him?
Yes, sir.
Who is the best friend? Oh, you are the best friend of Moses. Come.
In this class, I am pointed to a young girl called Esther Kura, who is Moses' best friend.
So for some time, he's not been part of this class, and you are all learning and you are leaving him behind. How can he catch up?
So if you come and join us, I'll teach him what we learn.
Well, was he part of 6 March when you were in primary school?
Yes.
What was he doing?
She was conducting us.
Really? And was he doing it well?
Yes.
How was he doing it?
She was using a stick to conduct us.
When Moses was in primary school, he led his school during parade and athletic competitions to win awards. Mina Mensah is the head teacher.
He was leading our school during 6 March. And even if there will be a mistake, the way this guy will turn the mistake into a perfect pen, you will not know. For him to go through this pain, and he's a very neat guy.
In low and middle income countries like Ghana, studies suggest for every road traffic related death, 3 victims suffer permanent disability, and many more dependents of these victims are affected socio-economically. Moses was 8 years when his father died, and his mother, Selina Fosua, who is a farmer, has been struggling to provide food for the family since then. With Moses' current predicament, her situation has even worsened.
There's almost an answer. Me call from Namikobuja. May I tell a crab to me as one I say me to a obvious me Kobujas and I'm no commodity. Near Chan and I may a day to me and me Jan go in a year. Now, Doctor and City and where Chan and I obey what chance were a clan betnasi. I junk of one Roma and almost so I saw a walk on, God bless me. On one a boy which any be a moment I saw phone so. One will be so bad. Or the Jitoko Kobi man, no magic. Namity Tobia man, son. I did tell Mamma Canons ever fear. To a bit of me, almost fear Naja. My quack mom said almost to be Nebia, or Mudibeco school.
Selina cannot afford the daily taxi fare from home to the Konfunochi Teaching Hospital, which is about a 30-minute journey. Selina has been sleeping in the open at the hospital's outpatient department since 19th March.
In any 3 days, I want man was a man. They say, pa, ye boy back on almost in the kay 65 million. I say, ma, there's in the case 65 million. Now I guess a 5 million. Kulemba. Obey then I been yes, car at Tia. Nagid you almost with Yamu, we are sending Nagid you on the best in the cost. Nancy Moses, media minimum senya minti. Yango Bemo will be a free soul about boy. As I say, Kulawanya was mad, the other hammer wabla bomb grandma. And they say, made them a cost school. And he met the women I cost and has made. And I'm saying, Yaminti, one day was a man. Yes, yet fish, yeah, sha, Anthony. Ma was when Yajma. Papa be answering one of my Becca Sabia. Make Papa was here, say, dance we and sweat up at the piano. Becca see a beton, and I'm the question of Moses. Yaminti, Ebian and Coupon will be about one to win to know him go school.
Selina doesn't have money to pay to use the public toilet and bathrooms here at the Konfenochi Teaching Hospital, so she offered to be cleaning the toilet and the bathroom daily so she's not charged to use it. Where Selina lives with her 5 children tells it all that they are in abject poverty. They live in an old family house which looks very weak, and the clay used to build gradually peeling off, exposing the wood used to make the structure. I wonder how Moses would be able to use wheelchair or clutches here when he is discharged. This family has been made worse off through the accident Moses had. It is certainly not going to be an easy journey for Moses and his family.
It takes even much more of a toll, especially if it's a child who is maybe very much like within a toddler or younger age. The dependence is already higher in terms of what they can and cannot do. And then when there's an amputation, it will even be worse. It will affect this child's image, self-esteem and all that.
The system itself is not recognizing the harm that is being caused to these children and then their families. There are instances where parents have lost their jobs because they have to pay attention to their children because by no fault of theirs, we have increased their vulnerability level. So the extra thing that a child can do on their own, somebody must be there to provide it because we have contributed in increasing their vulnerability level. So we expect that in some of these matters, the state would also look at the social intervention aspect of it and provide care for their children.
When they get injured and they are mismanaged, then they have the deformities that become a burden to society and itself. So we should be able to protect them, preventing them from getting the accident, the road traffic in itself, and also secondly, to be able to manage them so that they don't develop any deformity or any complication as a result of the road traffic accident.
This is Peter Mensah, a 10-year-old boy stuck in a wheelchair. He has suffered one of the worst amputations. His 2 legs have been amputated. On 12 July 2017, Peter left for school in the morning, but before noon, Peter was battling for his life. He was only 6 years when this life-threatening disaster struck him.
Madam, the cousin could plenty fees in his studies. And I'm a call, Nanaso, a trouble now. And I'm sim could discorno. We call no number until Namsim Thomas coffee, aquaje, and Timmy coffee and a carbon.
This happened at Offenso Mase, a suburb of Ashanti. Peter owed the school only 3 cedis. Peter is now permanently disabled. He is young, but Peter is already feeling the cost of his accident.
First, Mayana, no one name down for Kobobo, dear Goloya Bibia. He said, dear, Minan, dear Vintimine, and Cobabia. ntimi nsole nantew omo nyina nante na me ntimi nsole nantew me na aye hame.
He spent 8 months receiving care at the Konfonochi Teaching Hospital. Peter really needs psychological and therapeutic help at this stage. This is the point doctors into family medicine like Dr. Nakoka comes in.
We believe that the family is a key part, especially when you think about chronic things like rehabilitation, amputations and all. And we come in actually across all the sectors. We could be at the point of the acute care when the patient comes in immediately to the point of managing the patient.
Life is not easy for Peter's grandmother, the one he lives with. Auntie Esther, as she is popularly called, has still not recovered from that shock she had when she first saw Moses on the street battling for his life.
The mama rare when I say Akra one need them. Na me hwese sitie aye smart man ko eba na de asem we se we nya nan ketekete kura me afa bia nsoso ama akra no eno de mamre ho tambi ano ka me stress aban ka akra no won fa no enhwe no mayen won hwe akra no na ne nan no eni ni school semu da won hwe mu aye na se de edin me hwe akra no a emi hunu de na jukura ya dakura na akra no beda no wode ne nsa wode hye na chiseyi no woda na me hwe sa aka ni snipa no ya na me hunu de menye.
There is a reason behind why little Peter had to suffer that brutal amputation, as explained by ACP Dr. Samuel Ofori.
Some of them primarily they get certain injuries that will warrant the amputation become another means of resuscitating the patient, because you want to keep the patient alive first than the limb. The limb comes secondary. Once you keep the patient alive, if you save the limb and then the patient is gone, the next time you see, you're going to see the patient at the morgue, which we don't want. We want to save that person's life because that person's life will be worthy even without the limb. So in situations that will warrant, some comes with mangled extremities. There are some patients that come run over by car tires, by articulators. It's matched, not to spoil your dinner or your lunch, your meal. Some come like mincemeat, and in that state that you cannot put things together, you need to amputate the limb to save the individual.
In Peter's case, that was his exact state when they got to the hospital. The accident scene video available to us shows this young boy in a pool of blood, gasping for breath and screaming on top of his voice for help, and his 2 legs with his bones broken, scattered all over the street. Onlookers rushed to his rescue, lift him up and put him in a car boot and rush him to the hospital.
In the past, we had a belief that even the children have not sinned before. They are innocent people. So even when accidents occur, fatal accidents, I mean, it doesn't affect them. But these days, I don't know. Most children are victims of accident. Most children are victims of accident.
Director General of the National Road Safety Authority, Mayor Briyabo, admits what is happening now demands that they collaborate more with the education sector to increase awareness.
I think in 2009 we came out with road safety books for basic schools, and I think it's about 10 years old or even more. And so we need to review that book and then ensure that it's up to date with the situation as we have now, and also ensure that the curriculum which the Ghana Education Service is reviewing, some of these things are incorporated. They did that for us in the years past, but I understand they are reviewing the curriculum for schools. And therefore, our input is also very crucial to ensure that it is not just a matter of the English language, the maths, etc., social studies, but we incorporate issues concerning safety so that as part of it, we've been told it cannot be a subject on its own, but it can be incorporated into many subjects.
The Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority has also served notice of some major interventions they are activating to get drivers to drive more carefully now. Kafui Semevo is Director, Driver Training, Testing and Licensing.
Every commercial driver will attend a refresher training at least once a year, and it will also be a requirement for renewal of the driver's license when we start. However, we want to take stakeholders through the sensitization process for everybody to understand why that provision in the law must be enforced and what benefits it brings to us. It is not a punishment, but it is something put in there to ensure that we are all safe on our roads. So what we are doing at the DVLA is now we are paying attention to education of the commercial drivers. Beyond that, we are also going to look at how every person who has been licensed to drive will have access to retraining, and it is very necessary we do that. We are looking at various platforms, various methods. Will soon come out of how that will be done, and everybody will be complied or will be asked to do that once you have a driver's license. Now remember that the grant of a driver's license is a privilege, it's not your human right. So if you don't comply, we have the right to take it away from you.
Until someone intervenes and see how Peter could get prosthesis, he would have to continue dragging the little ties left on the ground like that. And when he's tired, lift himself up and walk with his two palms with his head pointing to the ground.
Society must also recognize that our going in and out is for the welfare of our children. We go to work, make money, because we know that we want to pay our children's school fees and all that. So consider every single child on the street as your child and ensure that you build systems that will protect them. And doing so, you are also protecting the future and then the welfare of your own self.
If you have a child or a younger sibling, you may be probably thinking of what you could do to spare them the agony Moses and Peter are going through. You are also probably thinking of how you could drive such that you would not cause parents like Naomi that pain of losing a child through road traffic accident. Remember that by the close of this week, 6 innocent children would have been crushed to death on roads in Ghana. Be careful not to add to the statistics, because behind the numbers are human beings with names. Above all, what will the state do from now to protect our future leaders? My name is Seth Kwame Boatin.